standard of domesticity. No late-night parties, no unapproved guests, and certainly no bohemian experiments. This is a respectable building. Victoria. His emphasis on bohemian experiments was clearly directed at their living arrangement. Vicky, however, was no longer the little girl who cowered before her father's disapproval. Her love for Jack had given her a new strength, a quiet defiance. We understand the terms of our lease, Dad. We'll be respectable and happy in our own way. Mr. Bradford's jaw tightened, but he merely nodded, a flicker of grudging respect in his eyes. He knew he couldn't simply order her around anymore. This new Vicky, this independent woman who had chosen her own path, was a formidable opponent. The constant pressure from Mr. Bradford began to take its toll, not on their love, but on their day-to-day lives. Jack, already under the stress of running his own restaurant, found himself constantly looking over his shoulder. He worried about his rent, about Mr. Bradford finding some loophole to evict them, about the negative impact on his business. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of fending off Mr. Bradford's critiques, Jack found Vicky waiting for him in the apartment, a concerned look on her face. "Jack, you look utterly drained," she said, taking his hand. "I am," he sighed, collapsing onto the sofa. He was down there all afternoon, criticizing the new specials, questioning my suppliers, even suggesting I repaint the entire dining room in a more sophisticated shade of tone. Vicky sat beside him, rubbing his back. "He's trying to wear us down, Jack. He wants us to crack, to prove that this living together arrangement is a mistake." "Well, it's working. A little," Jack admitted, his voice heavy. "I'm constantly on edge. I can't focus on my cooking. I'm worried about everything." Vicky leaned her head on his shoulder. "We won't let him win, Jack. We're stronger than that. Our love is stronger than his need for control." Despite her brave words, Vicky herself was feeling the strain. Her father's presence was a constant reminder of her past, of the suffocating control he had always exerted. It made her question her own choices, not about Jack, but about her ability to truly escape her father's shadow. The thought of marriage, of a legal bond that her father could then scrutinize, and perhaps even try to legally manipulate, felt even more terrifying now. One evening, a few weeks later, Jack returned from a late-night delivery to find Vicky sitting alone in the dark, a half-packed suitcase beside her. His heart leaped into his throat. "Vicky, what's going on?" he asked, his voice tight with fear. She looked up, her eyes "I can't do this, Jack." "Can't do what?" "Live with me." "What are you talking about?" He rushed to her side, his mind reeling. "My father. He's everywhere. Every time I turn around, he's there, criticizing, judging, making me feel like I'm a child again, making a terrible mistake." She gestured wildly around the apartment. "He called me today, Jack. He said he'd found me a suitable apartment, far away from here, closer to a respectable hospital, where I could focus on my career without distractions." Jack sat beside her, pulling her into his arms. "He's trying to break us, Vicky. He's trying to get inside your head. Don't let him." "But what if he's right?" she whispered, her voice filled with doubt. "What if this is all just a temporary rebellion? What if I'm just repeating my parents' mistakes, just in a different way?" Her fear of commitment, of the potential for a relationship to sour, was deeply rooted, and her father's constant interference was expertly exploiting that vulnerability. "Vicky, look at me." Jack held her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his gaze. "We are not your parents. And this is not a mistake. What we have, what we feel, is real. It's strong. It's different." He kissed her gently, trying to convey the depth of his conviction. "We chose this, Vicky. We chose to be together because we want to be, and no amount of meddling, no amount of control can change that." Vicky looked at him, searching his eyes, and slowly, the fear began to recede, replaced by a flicker of hope. "But he's our landlord, Jack. He can make our lives a living hell." "Then we fight him," Jack declared, his jaw set. "We don't let him win. We show him that his control means nothing when it comes to our love. We show him that we can be happy, even under his nose." Vicky looked at the suitcase, then back at Jack, a slow smile spreading across her face. "You're right. We fight him." She closed the suitcase, pushing it aside. "But we need a plan. We can't just react to his every move." And so, their life, under Mr. Bradford's watchful eye, became a strategic game. They developed code words for his unexpected visits, a system of subtle signals to warn each other. They made a conscious effort to present a united front, to show no cracks in their resolve. They even started to find a perverse humor in his antics, turning his attempts at intimidation into inside jokes. One morning, Mr. Bradford arrived unannounced, complaining about a leaky faucet that Jack had already fixed. He found Jack and Vicky laughing over breakfast, seemingly unbothered by his presence. "Ah, a domestic scene," Mr. Bradford observed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I trust the plumbing is in order." "Perfectly, Mr. Bradford," Jack replied cheerfully, offering him a cup of coffee. "Would you like some toast?" Mr. Bradford eyed the toast suspiciously. "No, thank you. My ulcer, you know." "Oh, right," Vicky said, a mischievous twinkle in her eye. "It flares up when you're stressed, doesn't it, Dad? Perhaps you should try to relax more." "We certainly are." She exchanged a knowing glance with Jack, who struggled to suppress a grin. Mr. Bradford's face reddened, his ulcer suddenly seeming to bother him less than their apparent contentment. He huffed, made a few more vague complaints, and then, surprisingly, left, defeated by their impenetrable good humor. Their friends, Janet and Terry, were a constant source of support. Janet, happily married and living in a beautiful new home with Philip, often called, offering advice and encouragement. Terry, now settled in Hawaii, would send postcards filled with exotic descriptions of her nursing adventures and heartfelt messages of solidarity. "It's a different kind of challenge, Jack," Janet advised over the phone one evening. "But you two are so strong, you'll find your own way to make it work. Just remember why you chose to be together in the first place." Jack held on to those words, those moments of connection and shared resolve. He knew that their journey was unconventional, fraught with external and internal battles. But every time he looked at Vicky, every time they shared a laugh or a tender touch, he knew that the fight was worth it. They were building their own definition of home, their own version of happiness, brick by painful brick, under the ever-present, yet increasingly impotent, shadow of Mr. Bradford. Chapter 7. The Unspoken Fears. As weeks turned into months, Jack and Vicky settled into a rhythm, a delicate balance between their shared life and their individual pursuits. Jack's bistro thrived, a testament to his culinary skill and relentless hard work. Vicky, immersed in her nursing career, found fulfillment in helping others, her days filled with the quiet heroism of the medical profession. Their apartment above the restaurant became a sanctuary, a place where they could shed the day's stresses and simply be themselves. But the shadow of Mr. Bradford, though less overtly menacing, never fully lifted. He continued his sporadic inspections, his critical eye missing nothing, his comments ranging from the subtly passive. He would often bring up Vicky's missed opportunities, subtly reminding her of the Houston promotion she had turned down. "Victoria, I saw the latest medical journal," he'd say, casually dropping by for coffee. "There's a fascinating article on advanced surgical techniques being pioneered in Houston, such a vibrant city for ambitious young professionals." He'd then glance pointedly at Jack, as if to suggest Jack was holding her back. Vicky, however, had learned to deflect his barbs with practiced ease. "Yes, Dad. It sounds interesting, but I'm quite content with my work here. The community needs dedicated nurses, and I find great satisfaction in serving them." She would then change the subject, usually to something innocuous like the weather or the latest neighborhood gossip, effectively shutting down his attempts at manipulation. Despite their outward resilience, the unspoken fears still lingered, particularly for Vicky. Her past trauma, the specter of her parents' bitter divorce, remained a raw wound. The idea of marriage, of formalizing their commitment with a legal contract, still filled her with a profound dread. She loved Jack unequivocally, but the concept of marriage felt like a cage, a prelude to inevitable pain. She cherished their arrangement of living together, seeing it as a testament to their free will, a daily choice to be with each other, unburdened by societal expectations or legal ties. Jack, on the other hand, while having embraced the idea of living together for Vicky's sake, still harbored a deep-seated longing for marriage. His old-fashioned core, as Vicky had so accurately described, yearned for the traditional symbols of commitment, the ring, the vows, the formal declaration of a lifelong bond. He saw marriage, not as a trap, but as a sacred promise, a public affirmation of love and fidelity. He often found himself looking at other married couples, at Janet and Philip, and feeling a pang of wistful longing for that same sense of permanence. He tried to articulate these feelings to Vicky one quiet evening, after a particularly romantic dinner they'd cooked together. They were curled on the sofa, a comfortable silence settling between them. "Vicky," he began tentatively,